So welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're going to make a vegan funfetti loaf cake, and before we do that, the first thing you want to do is preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and we need to grease our loaf pan as well. So I'm just going to grab some soft butter. Make sure that you coat the sides and the bottom and those corners as well. This will make it easier to remove the cake when it's baked. And then we're going to add an oversized piece of parchment paper. So this overhang will also help us remove it, as we can just pull it out once the cake is baked. And then I'm going to use a couple of little clips to hold it in place. Perfect, so this will stop this extra bit of parchment paper flopping onto the cake batter once it's in there. We can pop this aside and now make our cake batter. So I'm going to be using a hand mixer for this today, and we're going to start by adding some room temperature butter to a mixing bowl. Today I'm using a vegan butter, which is unsalted, and that's 225 grams. To that we're going to add 200 grams of white sugar, and then give everything a mix until it's combined. Okay, that's as much as we need to do. You just want it combined a little bit. We're not creaming for minutes, because that can actually over mix the ingredients, which can lead to a more dense cake. Next we're going to add 100 grams of applesauce, and then I have two flavorings: a teaspoon of vanilla, you can use vanilla bean paste or vanilla extract, and then half a teaspoon of almond. Now, if you do have a nut allergy, you can always use an imitation almond extract, so just make sure you double check those ingredients depending on your own allergies. So we'll give this a quick mix in. And then we can move on to our dry ingredients. So I'm just going to move this aside and show you what we have. We have a mixture of all-purpose flour and cake flour. Now, cake flour has a slightly lower protein level, so it actually gives a softer crumb when you're making cakes. And I really like to do the mixture. Just makes a nicer, fluffier cake, in my opinion. So we have 120 grams of all-purpose flour, 110 grams of cake flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and half a teaspoon of salt. We also have our buttermilk as well, which we've made in advance. So this was using 120 ml of non-dairy milk. And to that I've added 2 teaspoons of vinegar. You can use apple cider vinegar or white vinegar for that, and just make it at the start of the recipe so that it can actually combine together and settle before you add it in to the recipe. So what we're going to do is give this a little bit of a mix in itself and add some of it to the mixture, then some of the milk, and we'll just go back and forth combining until everything is incorporated. So I'm going to add about half to start with. And give it a mix. And then we're going to add some of our milk. That's about half. And stir. And then more of our flour mixture. the rest of the buttermilk and the last bit of flour as well. Now the reason I don't combine it all in one go is I find it actually just keeps that consistency a little bit lighter, and it also means you're not over mixing your cake batter. Let's clean off those blades. And then the last thing we need to do is fold in our sprinkles. So these are non-dairy sprinkles. Just check again if you have certain allergies that your sprinkles can accommodate that. And this is 50 grams. And I'm just going to fold those in gently. And that's all we're going to do. You want to not over mix this because, as you can see, the colour will bleed a little bit. You want to try and maintain those little balls of colour. And then the last thing we need to do is pop this in our loaf pan. And make sure you scrape down that bowl and get all of the mixture. Okay, and then I'm going to grab a spatula to clean that off. Now, as this is a relatively thick batter, you do want to use something like the wooden spoon or spatula just to push everything into the corners of the tin. It's not runny at all. So just take your time and do that. Perfect. So this is going to bake in our preheated oven for roughly 55 minutes to an hour. I like to check it at the 50-minute mark just to make sure that it's baking okay. And I'm actually going to bake this in my toaster oven today because it is a small bake. And I am a fan of doing that actually when it's particularly hot so that I don't have to turn my big oven on. Okay, there we go. Our cake is ready to go in the oven. Okay, so our loaf cake is done. You can see all those nice pops of colour and a little bit here too. What we're going to do is let this cool completely in the pan, and then we'll come back and cut it so you can see what it looks like inside. So our cake is cool completely. Now it's time to remove it from the pan. And as I said earlier, we just are using these clips to undo the parchment paper, and then it's as simple as lifting it up. I'm going to move this while I do that and then pop it down. Again, you can see all those lovely pops of colour from the sprinkles. And then we'll just cut a piece off of the end. Perfect. And there's a close-up of the inside of it. Let's turn the cake around so you can see that as well. It's got a really nice depth, lots and lots of pops of colour as well. This is a great treat dessert if you're having a birthday party or something like that. And you could definitely add some nice frosting swirls on top as well with some buttercream, or even just serve it with a side of ice cream as well. So for storage for this cake, I would recommend keeping it in an airtight container on your counter. It should be good for up to a week. And of course you could cut up the pieces, wrap them up as well, and then freeze them individually if you wanted to keep them for a later date as well. And because this is allergen friendly, this would be a great treat to cut up into smaller slices like this, and even put in your kids' lunch boxes, or even if you want to take a snack pack to work as well. Really nice little treat to have in the afternoon with a cup of tea or coffee. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video, As always, the link to the recipe is going to be in the description below, and I look forward to seeing you on my next video. Thanks for watching.